As a B-list actor, I was desperate for some clout. So I decided to take the plunge and star in a gay romance drama. When I saw my co-star was Eric, I was floored. "You're an A-lister. Why are you scraping the bottom of the barrel with a show like this?" Later, he'd pull me into his arms, playing with me, and whisper in my ear with a soft laugh. "For this, the first scene is a sex scene," the director warned me. "It's pretty explicit. You'll probably have to take everything off. Don't worry, we'll clear the set for you guys." On the outside, I gave a calm nod. On the inside, I was screaming. Nobody said anything about the show being this graphic before I signed on. The director must have seen the doubt on my face, because he leaned in and lowered his voice. They changed the script. It was at the other lead's request. The corner of my mouth twitched. 32 kissing scenes. Would my lips even have any feeling left after this? Just as I was grumbling to myself, the door of the black SUV behind me slid open with a swish. A tall, slender figure stepped out, silhouetted against the light. He was wearing a custom-tailored suit with a subtle silver pattern. He radiated class. The moment his face came into view, the crowd of onlookers outside the set erupted in a tidal wave of screams. Eric? Seriously, what was an A-lister like him doing in a gay drama? Eric walked up to me with a brilliant smile, bending slightly to shake my hand. "It's great to work with you, Leo." My mind went blank. I was so nervous my face was a stoic mask. I extended my own hand, and we shook. "Yeah, you too." Why did this whole situation feel so weird? After we shook hands, the tips of Eric's ears were a little red. He reached into his suit, which had to be worth tens of thousands of dollars, and pulled out a bottle of banana milk, handing it to me. I froze. How did he know I loved this stuff? "Oh, thanks." I took it, bit down on the straw, and took a long sip. The sweetness washed away some of my anxiety. Eric opened a bottle of banana milk for himself. His long fingers accidentally fumbled, and the straw clattered to the ground. "Can I use your straw?" He blinked his puppy dog eyes, which drooped slightly at the corners, making him look incredibly sincere and innocent. "Sure, go ahead." I pulled the straw out of my bottle and handed it to him. His fingertips brushed against my palm as he took it and poked it through the foil on his bottle. It was a simple action, but he made it look incredibly graceful. He put his lips to the straw and took a gentle sip, his dazzling eyes fixed on me the whole time. Delicious," he said. My ears burned. Doesn't this count as an indirect kiss? Couldn't he have just poked a hole with the straw and drunk from the bottle directly? Why did he have to suck on my used straw? Eric's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed, his eyes closing for a second as if he'd just tasted the best thing on earth. When he was done, Eric asked, "Do you want the straw back?" I shook my head. "I can just drink from the bottle." Eric's mood visibly brightened. "Then I'll just keep. I'll just take this, then." I nodded numbly. Fans were calling for him to come over and sign autographs. Eric called back an okay. He turned and jogged over, his long legs straight and lean, covering the distance in just a few strides. I glanced down at the straw he'd dropped. It was still in its plastic wrapper. He could have just opened it. What was the big deal? Just then, my assistant, Zoe, popped up out of nowhere. "Eric got coffee for the whole crew, but he got you banana milk, Leo. And it's the brand you mentioned you loved on social media." Zoe squinted, the cute girl making an incredibly pervy face. "If you love him, you give him your milk." I choked on a mouthful of banana milk. I pretended not to understand the filthy insinuation. "You need to spend less time online." That afternoon's table read was in a hotel conference room. When I pushed the door open, Eric was already sitting at the head of the long table. He'd changed into a brown jacket with a high collar, which he'd zipped all the way up. He looked handsome, but it was weird. With the collar zipped that high, wasn't he hot? Eric leaned over to pull out a chair for me, and as he did, his collar shifted. From my angle, I caught a perfect view of a suggestive red mark on the side of his neck. It trailed down toward his collarbone. It stood out, shockingly bright against his pale skin. A hickey? And there was more than one. A-listers really do live a debauched life. I was so stunned I didn't watch where I was going. My shin slammed into the chair leg. I sucked in a sharp breath from the pain. Eric heard me and looked over, asking nervously, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I snapped, feeling an inexplicable wave of irritation. He's about to be my gay for pay partner, and he's still out there fooling around? So, faking it on screen is the job and sleeping around is his real life? The director tapped the table. "Everyone, let's focus. The first scene we're shooting tomorrow is very important." I forced myself to look at the script. Our show was called Palm Ballad. It's about a college student, Tim, who gets sold by human traffickers into the Golden Triangle and is rescued by a drug lord, Caleb North. The twist is that Caleb is actually an undercover cop. But to maintain his cover, he pretends he only saved Tim because he's into his looks, forcing Tim to be his lover. Tim, however, immediately recognizes Caleb as the upperclassman he used to have a crush on. He's happy to see him again but heartbroken that the once bright and principled student he knew has become a crime boss. But in the dangerous world of the Golden Triangle, Tim has no choice but to cling to this one lifeline. The first sex scene happens under these complicated circumstances. Caleb has to use their physical intimacy to dispel the suspicions of his gang. Tim is both terrified and eager, willing to trade his body for protection. Both of them have their own hidden agendas. Their bodies connect as they play a game of desire. The script described how, in a dilapidated bamboo hut shrouded by palm leaves, the two of them were tangled together on a military blanket, fueled by whiskey, desperately entwined. I flipped through the pages. An 8,000-word sex scene. The details, the positions, it was all there. He had the guts to write it, but I barely had the guts to read it. Can they even air this? My fingers trembled, and my mind uncontrollably conjured an image. Eric pressing me down onto the military blanket from behind, his breath coming in ragged pants as he kisses my ear, his breath searing hot, his fingers digging into my waist as he says in a low, hoarse voice, "Don't run." I shook my head. How could I possibly run from this? Is this going to be my gay awakening? Just then, the director's voice cut through my thoughts. The emotions in this scene are very complex, especially for Tim. You need to portray that mix of shyness and desire, of fear and surrender. I need that natural reaction, that look, that shy tremble, but also that undeniable craving. I nodded in agreement, but I was grumbling to myself. How am I supposed to react naturally? Sure, Eric is ridiculously handsome, but I'm not so pathetic that one look from him is going to make me blush. After the table read, the director asked me and Eric to stay behind. For a two-male lead drama, the most important thing is chemistry. He gave us a meaningful look, especially for the intimate scenes. You two need to connect more off-screen. I forced a laugh, my toes curling in cringe as I nodded along. Absolutely, of course. But Eric suddenly turned his head, his gaze landing squarely on me. His look was so intense, almost predatory, that it made my breath catch in my throat. "Don't worry," he said, the corner of his lip twitching into a slight smirk. His voice was low. "I'll be sure to build our relationship with Leo." After the table read, I collapsed onto the hotel sofa and scrolled through my phone, my mind still reeling from those blush-inducing lines. My phone buzzed. "Eric, are you free tonight?" I almost threw my phone across the room. "What do you mean, are you free tonight? Be more specific, man." I took a sip of banana milk to calm my nerves and tried to respond in a professional tone. "For script rehearsal? Oh yeah, I can do that." He replied almost instantly, "To rehearse the sex scene. Is that okay?" I sprayed the mouthful of milk I'd just taken all over the coffee table. Is this guy doing this on purpose? After frantically wiping up the mess, I took a deep breath and typed with trembling fingers. "Okay, professional. I have to be professional." The moment I sent the message, my phone buzzed again. Picture popped up. It was a high-definition photo of six-pack abs. It was immediately retracted. Eric sent a new message. "I've already showered." But my brain was faster than my fingers. I had already instinctively saved the picture. In the photo, Eric was standing in a steamy bathroom, his upper body bare. Water droplets trickled down the grooves of his abs, and his V-line disappeared into a pair of loose-fitting gray lounge pants. In the corner of the mirror, you could even see the distinct outline of a certain bulge. It was impressive. My face flushed. Damn, he was hot. I zoomed in with 2 fingers to examine the details. The winding red marks on his neck had faded a lot, leaving only faint traces. They were a pale pink, about the same color as his nipples. It just made him look even more tempting. My face grew hotter. What was he trying to do? Seduce me? Become an on-set couple? I'm not that kind of guy. I stayed professional and threw some shade, sending him a pointed message. I'll shower and be over later. I don't like things that aren't clean. The hint couldn't be more obvious, right? You want to sleep with me? Not happening. A reply came back quickly. Good thing I'm very clean. Room 6007. I'll be waiting. Leo. Zoe suddenly popped her head over my shoulder, her eyes immediately locking onto my phone screen. Whoa, you guys have gotten to this stage already. Zoe let out a weird, squealing noise. I frantically locked my phone. My face red as I explained, we're just going over the script in his room. Zoe squinted, putting on her signature pervy expression. I get it. Rehearse until you pass out. Practice until the sun comes up. In that moment, I felt incredibly alone. It was like the entire world was trying to turn me gay. But I managed to talk myself down in a second. I'm a straight shooter. I won't bend. Not even a little. Zoe stopped teasing and got back to work, ordering my dinner. I opened the container. Oysters on the half shell. Zoe! A twisted smile spread across Zoe's face. Just helping you keep your strength up, Leo. You'll need the energy for rehearsal tonight. You can do it. Who do you think you're looking down on? I don't need oysters to keep my strength up. While eating my oysters, I opened X. Today, Palm Ballad had officially announced its 2 male leads. This was the first time my name had ever been in the trending topics. The hashtag #EricShiLeoGinu was sitting right there at number 3 on the entertainment chart. I've made it. I chugged my banana milk, my fingers trembling with excitement. I clicked on the comments. My smile froze instantly. Industry plant, get out. What gives you the right to co-star with my baby? This nobody who sold his ass for a role is disgusting. Yuck. Deep dive into Leo G's sugar daddy. Click here to see. A horde of Eric's fans had flooded my social media. What kind of spell did you cast on our boy? Are you proud of hooking your way into a role? What tricks did you pull to get my idol to take this drama? I almost coughed up blood. I bit down hard on my straw. I desperately wanted to fire back. Go ask your precious idol. Why are you asking me? Your pure, innocent boy toy showed up today with a neck full of hickeys. But then I thought about the army of fans behind her. And the empty space behind me. I held back. I cowardly deleted the words I had typed. But just then, Eric posted, @EricShi, please direct all questions to my account. Do not harass my co-star. My studio will be documenting all personal attacks and pursuing legal action. I stared at the screen, stunned. The tightness in my chest eased a little. The guy might be a player, but at least he had some integrity. Eric's fans were in an uproar. Honey, blink twice if you've been kidnapped. This is way too defensive. Don't tell me he's actually lovesick? Case closed. He obviously took this drama to chase after Leo G. The fans quickly got #Eric's eyes ideal type to trend. In an interview clip from 3 years ago, Eric was smiling as he answered, I like someone with dimples when they smile, fair skin. The host off camera egged him on, be more specific. Eric rubbed his nose. Chestnut-colored, naturally curly hair, and a sweet tooth. Crack. I crushed the banana milk bottle in my hand. Isn't that me? No way. I'm straight. I'm just trying to get some clout from this gay for pay gig. I'm not trying to actually turn gay. Is he gonna make a move on me when we're running lines tonight? I stared at the slippery oyster meat in front of me and suddenly thought of the glistening abs in Eric's photo. I shook my head and popped the oyster into my mouth. At 8 o'clock, I stood in front of room 6007, my palms sweating nervously. A faint, warm light seeped from under the door, and I could vaguely hear rustling noises from inside. What was Eric doing? This isn't really some kind of casting couch situation, is it? I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The lights were off. The floor was covered in candles, their flames flickering. They illuminated a chaotic mess of props on the floor. Handcuffs, whips, collars. There was also a black silk ribbon, crumpled up next to the bed. My scalp tingled. Eric seemed like such a pure, high-class idol on the surface, but he was into such kinky stuff behind the scenes. I immediately whipped out my phone and started snapping pictures of the evidence on the floor. Preserving the proof. "Baby, you're here?" A greasy male voice came from behind me. I spun around. A muscular dude wrapped in a towel was walking out happily, but his face changed when he saw me. I glanced at the room number. Shit, wrong room. The guy saw me holding up my phone and flew into a rage. "You damn pervert. Taking pictures, are you?" He raised his arm to snatch my phone. I turned and ran, only to slam right into someone's chest. "Leo?" Eric's voice, tinged with confusion, came from above me. I looked up and met his slightly raised eyebrows. "What are you running from?" I didn't have time to explain. The muscular dude was charging at us, murder in his eyes. "You two in this together." Eric reacted in a flash. He grabbed my wrist and yanked me into a run. His fingers were long and strong, his palm searing hot, gripping me so tightly my bones ached. We sprinted all the way to the hotel terrace before he finally let go. The night wind whipped around us as I gasped for breath, my heart racing. The guy in the towel had his movements restricted and couldn't keep up. He probably wouldn't chase us up here. On the terrace, the night air was cool. Eric leaned against the railing, his shirt billowing in the wind, the collar hanging loosely open, revealing a hint of his collarbone. He wasn't wearing any makeup. His hair was a mess, his jeans were cuffed, and there was a fresh smudge on his white sneakers from where I'd stepped on them. He looked like a college kid skipping class, a little rebellious, a little fresh. It was a stark contrast to the perfectly polished Alistair I saw on camera. Somehow, he seemed much more alive. "What were you taking pictures of?" he asked suddenly. I choked. "I couldn't exactly say. I thought you were going to assault me, so I was gathering evidence." He let out a low laugh and leaned in closer. "Leo, you weren't trying to protect yourself from me, were you?" His breath brushed past my ear, and a shiver ran down my spine. He was too close. So close I could see the small patch of skin below his collar, where the red marks had faded so much they were barely visible. I couldn't help but blurt out, "The hickeys on your neck are gone." Eric froze for a second, then understood. "It's a rash." He hooked a finger into his collar and pulled it down. His pale skin was clean, with only a few faint red marks remaining. "A rash from a banana milk allergy. You're allergic and you still drank it." My voice shot up, startling even myself. In the night wind, his eyes curved into crescents. "You looked so happy drinking it." I couldn't resist. That one sentence. I deflated like a punctured balloon. All my earlier anger turned into a sour lump in my throat that I couldn't swallow. Guilt hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm such an idiot. He posted on social media to defend me, and I thought he was some sleazebag with a messy private life. I even suspected he was trying to use his power over me. And it turns out he just wanted to drink from the same bottle of milk as me. The wind made my face burn. I stole a glance at him. He was looking up at the horizon, his profile bathed in the moonlight, looking impossibly clean. I think I completely misjudged him. We rehearsed on the hotel terrace. We were running through the first sex scene from the script. The script lay open on the table, its pages rustling in the wind. Eric got into character quickly. "Okay, so I'll approach you, we'll make eye contact, and then I'll kiss you." His gaze was fixed directly on my lips. My throat felt scratchy. I licked my lips without thinking. His eyes darkened for a moment before he looked away and continued. "Then, I slap you and ask if you're willing to be mine." I nodded, steeling myself to deliver my line. "I am." Eric transformed in an instant. His jaw tightened, his eyes turned cold and menacing. He grabbed my wrist with Caleb North strength, fierce and painful. "Tim," he said, his voice low as his thumb rubbed over my wrist bone. My men are still here. His other hand hovered around my waist, making a move as if to pull down my pants. I need them to see exactly who you belong to. My breath caught. I grabbed his wrist, pleading, don't close the door. He suddenly smiled, his thumb brushing against my hot earlobe. All right. Door closed. In the script, this is when Caleb would dismiss his men and pushed him onto the military mat. And then, Eric whispered, his breath scorching hot against my ear, I'm going to pull off your pants. The immersion was so strong, I felt like he'd actually stripped me bare. My legs went weak, and my back hit the terrace railing. But Eric suddenly grabbed my arm, yanking me back. I stumbled into his arms, my nose brushing against his open collar, the faint scent of sandalwood mixed with his body heat washing over me. The railing's loose, he said with a frown, his palm flat against my lower back. It's dangerous. I froze and looked back. The screws on the railing were indeed loose, the rusty metal wobbling precariously. A wave of fear washed over me, and my palms began to sweat. Eric sighed. Let's just go to my room. My eyes widened in alarm. Your room. Eric let go of me and pointed into the distance. Paparazzi. I squinted. A small red light was blinking in the bushes, the signal light of a camera. My jaw dropped. People are following you even out to this dump? And they climbed that high up in a tree to get a shot? Is this the allure of an A-lister? I followed Eric to his room, my mind a chaotic mess. He said we were rehearsing, but it was late, just the two of us, and it was a sex scene. In that scene, we were supposed to be completely naked. What if he used rehearsal as an excuse to do something else? Even though he had broad shoulders, long legs, great abs, and was half a head taller than me, I had a black belt in Taekwondo. If he tried anything funny, I'd show him what's what. When he pushed open the door, I was stunned. The room was impeccably clean, the bedsheets so smooth it looked like no one had ever slept in them. There were dumbbells and a yoga mat in the corner, but on the nightstand was an Ultraman action figure. My eyes lit up, and I blurted out, "You like Ultraman, too? How bad could a guy who likes Ultraman be?" Eric leaned against the doorframe, a slight smile on his lips. "You want to watch an episode right now?" Of course I did. But I was a professional actor. I had to maintain some composure. I cleared my throat and put on a serious face. "We should probably go over the script first." He chuckled, the sound like a feather brushing against my eardrum. "One episode. To relax. It'll make the rehearsal feel more natural." That made sense. A-listers really are on another level of professionalism. I nodded eagerly. "Okay, one episode. Wait." He suddenly turned and pulled a box out of a closet. I glanced at it and nearly jumped out of my skin. A collector's edition Ultraman. The kind that was globally limited edition and could sell for the down payment on a house on the secondhand market. He handed it to me, his eyes smiling. "It's for you." My eyes went wide as I pointed at myself. "For me?" He nodded, his tone as casual as if he were handing me a bottle of water. "I have another one. This one's for you." I clutched it to my chest, my voice trembling. "Holy crap. This thing is worth a fortune." He raised an eyebrow. "You're going to sell it?" I immediately shook my head, hugging it tighter. "No way. I'm putting this on a shrine." I ran my hand over Ultraman's metal casing, so moved I was on the verge of tears. In my excitement, I gave Eric a firm pat on the chest. "Dude, from now on, you're my ride or die." He let out a soft grunt and rubbed the spot I'd hit, laughing quietly. "Okay." Under the light, his eyelashes were lowered, the curve of his lips gentle. It suddenly dawned on me. Crap, is he just doing fan service? But I'm not a fan. Am I? Wait, I think I am now. The lights in the room dimmed, leaving only the flickering glow of the TV screen illuminating the side of Eric's face. His features were softened by the light, highlighting his high-nose bridge and smooth jawline. He had amazing bone structure. He pushed a box of chocolates toward me, and I opened it and started eating. Then he offered me chips, and I took them, crunching away. "A drink? I'll take it." Everything was my favorite. Eventually, I completely let loose. I was one of those people who never gained weight anyway. I ended up squatting in front of his snack box, digging through it with my cheeks puffed out like a hamster hoarding food. He laughed quietly. "Slow down, no one's going to steal it from you. How do you have everything here?" I asked, tearing open another package and stuffing it in my mouth. He smiled. "I was worried you'd be hungry." Halfway through, I realized he hadn't touched anything. "How come you're not eating?" I asked, holding up half a potato chip. He propped himself up on his arm, suddenly leaned in, and took a bite of the chip right from my hand. His warm breath brushed against my fingertips. Tickled. "I'm cutting right now," he said, chewing slowly, his eyes still on me. "I want to be in the best shape for someone important." My heart skipped a beat. How is this guy always on? I got more and more relaxed, eventually sitting with my legs spread, my back against the sofa. The juice I was drinking made me feel warm all over, and my head started to feel a little fuzzy. "Eric," I leaned toward him. "What did you put in this juice? It's so hot." He reached out and caught me, his palm pressing against my lower back. "You grabbed the alcoholic kind." "Huh?" I looked down and saw several empty cans scattered on the floor. It was a fruit wine with 9% alcohol content. I was screwed. My alcohol tolerance was laughably low. I was a one-drink wonder. And on top of that, I was a terrible drunk. The last time I got drunk was at a college party. I ended up getting 100 coins and spending the whole time on one of those kiddie rides outside the supermarket that goes up and down. Daddy's Daddy is called Grandpa. The cheerful children's song played as I swayed back and forth all afternoon in a daze. At first, my roommates tried to stop me. Then a crowd gathered to take pictures. My roommates, unable to beat them, joined them, pulling out their phones to record a trove of my most humiliating moments. My head grew heavier, and my vision blurred as if a fog had descended. Eric's hand touched my forehead. It was cool and felt nice. I unconsciously rubbed against his hand. "Your face is burning up." Eric's voice was low. "Are you drunk?" I shook my head, then nodded, unsure of what I was even trying to say. "Do you want some water?" he asked. I grabbed his hand and shook my head. "I don't want water." His fingers were long and slender, with well-defined knuckles. Even though I was gripping them haphazardly, he didn't pull away. I inched closer to him. "I want to ride the kiddie ride." Eric held my waist, indulging the drunkard in me, and leaned in close to ask gently, "What kiddie ride?" Our breaths mingled. I held up my index finger. "Shoo." Then I used my hands and feet to climb onto him, straddling his lap and wrapping my legs around his waist. I reached out and touched his hot face. I pinched it and used it as a steering wheel. "Just like this," I said, kneading his face as I bounced my butt up and down. "See? This is the kiddie ride." Eric's Adam's apple bobbed. The hand on my waist tightened. I looked at him with hazy eyes, trying to manipulate him. "You are the kiddie ride now." He didn't say anything, his throat just moved again. I wasn't satisfied. I bounced again. "Why aren't you rocking?" My hand moved downwards. "Is it broken?" Before I could touch anything, Eric grabbed my wrist. His voice was hoarse. "Is this a G-rated ride?" I answered proudly, "It's a ride. You'll know once you rock it." I gave another forceful bounce. My butt accidentally brushed against his thigh. He let out a muffled groan, his eyelashes fluttering. That sound was so nice. I suddenly remembered that kiddie rides always sing. "If you won't rock," I whispered in his ear, "you can at least make some noises." "I'd like that." Eric's breathing became completely ragged. "Leo," his voice was incredibly husky. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" I tilted my head to look at him, lifting my chin to get closer to his face. "Of course I do," I said, poking his hot earlobe. "We're going for a ride." His eyes darkened, desire flaring within them. The next second, the world spun. Eric had me pinned on the bed. The sunlight was blinding as I shot my eyes open. "Wait, these aren't my sheets. This isn't my bed. This room. Crap. Eric's bed." I stiffly turned my head and came face to face with his just woken up face. He was lying on his side, propped up on one hand. His collar was open, and on his neck were a bunch of red marks. Bite marks, hickeys, a total mess. My brain buzzed. Did I do that? What do you want to ask? His voice was low and husky with the laziness of someone who just woke up. I clutched the blanket tightly, forcing myself to stay calm. So, who was on top? He raised an eyebrow and suddenly smiled. You were. Yes. At least I'd preserved that last shred of dignity. I shakily threw back the covers. My pants were still on. Seeing the empty wine can scattered on the floor, memories slowly started coming back. I was riding him like a kiddie ride. He held my waist to keep me still, and I bit him. And I got addicted to biting. All the way down. In the end, he wrapped me up in the blanket like a caterpillar. He held me tightly until I finally calmed down. I glanced at the mottled hickeys on Eric's neck. Thank God he was strong enough. He held me down. Otherwise, I'd be turning myself in at the police station today. The social suicide was too much. I grabbed my jacket and bolted for the door. Wait, Eric called from behind me. No time to wait. I didn't pause for a second, fleeing the scene of the crime at top speed. Even when the cold hallway air hit me, my face was still burning. So embarrassing. Even more embarrassing than when the video of me on the kiddie ride in college got leaked. I'm such an animal. This counts as sexual harassment, right? Did he secretly record it? Will he post it on social media? Will he? My phone suddenly vibrated. Eric, why'd you run? Eric, breakfast is on the table. Eric, next time, don't bite my neck. It's too obvious. I buried my face in my jacket. Great, I thought. There's going to be a next time. We still have to shoot the bed scene, and I'll have to bite him again. What am I going to do? As I was waiting on set to start filming, I had my head down, flipping through the script. Suddenly, I heard two of the lighting techs whispering nearby. Did you see the marks on Eric's neck? TSK, TSK. So what if he's an A-lister? His private life is a mess. Doing a gay drama and still fooling around on the side. What a player. My hand tightened on the script. Damn it, that sounded way too familiar. Hadn't I thought the exact same thing about him? Before my brain could catch up, my mouth was already moving. I'm the one who gave him those hickeys. The air instantly froze. The expressions on the two techs' faces went from ooh, some gossip, to holy crap, gossip. I added coldly, we were just rehearsing for today's bed scene. If I hear anyone spreading rumors, I stared at them and said, word for word, I'll make sure there are consequences. Just as I finished, I saw Eric standing in the doorway out of the corner of my eye. Remembering what I'd done last night, my first instinct was to hide. But he walked over, his voice soft. I've gotten used to this over the years. My heart ached a little. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. The amount of speculation and slander he must have faced after so many years at the top. It was terrifying just to think about. Eric looked at me, his eyes gentle. Thanks for sticking up for me. My ears burned, and I looked away. It's nothing. I was just what? Telling the truth. I couldn't say it. He suddenly leaned in, a low chuckle by my ear. Leo, you weren't this shy when you were biting me last night. The bed scene officially began filming. When the director yelled action, my mind was still a complete blank. We hadn't rehearsed last night, but my night of complete humiliation wasn't for nothing. Now, every time I saw Eric, I remembered riding him like a kiddie ride. I blushed whenever we made eye contact. I trembled whenever he touched me. I had perfectly achieved the director's vision. The moment Eric touched me, it was like a switch flipped in my body. He pinched my chin, forcing me to look at him. Look at me. His voice was so low only I could hear it. I looked up into his eyes. His lashes were downcast, his pupils so dark they seemed to suck you in. Who could possibly resist this? My ears were on fire, and my breathing was a mess. His hand slid to the back of my neck, his thumb gently caressing the skin, as if to soothe me, yet also to ignite a fire. I shivered, instinctively trying to pull away, but he grabbed my waist and pulled me back. Don't move, he whispered, reciting his line from the script. Are you a virgin? I froze, my heart pounding like it was going to burst out of my chest. I nodded, my face beat red. I was both in the scene and out of it. He gave a satisfied little laugh, held my chin, and kissed me. The moment our lips touched, I trembled all over. They were soft, warm, with a faint taste of mint. I'd never been kissed before. My teeth accidentally bumped against his, and I panicked, trying to pull back. But Eric just chuckled softly. His palm cupped the back of my head, his thumb brushing my earlobe. "Relax," he murmured against my lips. "Follow my lead." Then he gently took my lower lip between his tongue tentatively licking it. The tip of his tongue swept over the seam of my lips, sending a jolt through me that made my legs weak. I couldn't help but let out a soft gasp, my fingers unconsciously clenching his collar. Our tongues tangled together, the movements growing more and more fervent until I was left breathless. Eric, however, seemed completely unaffected, even reminding me to breathe. I refused to be outdone and kissed him again, heedless of everything else. Damn it, what was this? Was this acting? Or was this real? I couldn't tell anymore. The scene took a long time to shoot. The set was cleared, but it was still incredibly hot. Eric's breath fanned against my ear as he repeated his lines over and over, his voice low and bewitching. "Tim, you can't escape me." He gripped my waist, his thumb rubbing the small patch of skin on the back of my neck, sending shivers down my spine. I bit my lip to stifle a sound, but I couldn't control my body's reaction. The director yelled, "Cut." Eric immediately threw his jacket over my lap. "Don't move," he said in a low voice, his gaze sweeping downwards. That's when I realized. Crap, I had a boner. I grabbed the jacket and clutched it tightly. I collapsed onto the mat, wanting to die of shame. How is this fair? Isn't he supposed to be the gay one? How did I get hard first? The director praised our performance. "The emotion was perfect," he exclaimed, his eyes red with excitement as he rubbed his hands together. "Especially you, Leo. That sense of innocence was just perfect." My lips were swollen from all the kissing. I kept my head down, pretending to be dead. My lips were numb, and the taste of mint still lingered on my tongue. Eric stood nearby, a faint scent of sandalwood and sweat wafting from him. Smelled surprisingly good. We filmed that scene for 5 hours, from 8 different camera angles, 360 degrees of coverage. Every angle captured me being kissed until I was deprived of oxygen. Every second was torture. That faint sandalwood scent from Eric, mixed with his body heat, kept drifting into my nose. I was going crazy. We still had 31 more scenes like this. If we kept filming, I was probably going to turn gay for real. The scene during the day involved too much kissing. Now, whenever I close my eyes, all I can see is him holding my waist and kissing me. His hot breath, his warm hands. He was even in my dreams. The scenes in my dream jumped around. One moment, we were in the bamboo hut on set, the palm leaves rustling, with Eric pressing down on me, the rough military blanket digging into my back. The next, we were in the hotel room. He was holding my waist, keeping me from moving, and biting my neck. I panted, begging him, stop rocking." He just laughed and went even harder. The bed creaked and my whole body went limp. I wanted to run, but as soon as I tried to pull back, he grabbed my ankle. Eric leaned over and dragged me back. "Where are you going?" His voice was husky, his fingers tracing the inside of my calf. "We're not done rehearsing." In my dream, Zoe's dirty jokes came true. We really did do it day and night, practicing until we lost all track of time. The next day on set, I had dark circles under my eyes. Zoe handed me a coffee. She grinned mischievously. "Leo, you look like a scholar who's had his life force sucked out by a succubus." I choked on my coffee and looked up to see the succubus himself, Eric. He was standing in the middle of the set, his white shirt translucent in the morning light, his profile as clean as a painting. Who would have thought this man was in my dreams last night, holding my waist and forcing me to say his name? During a break, Eric walked over, holding the collector's edition Ultraman. "You left this in my room." He handed it to me, his fingertips lightly brushing my palm. My heart skipped a beat. "You remembered?" Eric leaned in, his warm breath sweeping past my ear. "I remember everything about you. How does this guy make even handing something over feel like he's hitting on me? My heart was beating a little too fast. It's over. I think I'm gay. For the rest of the shoot, Eric practically taught me how to act, step by step. Pull back on the emotion a little, he'd say, standing by the monitor and coaching me in a low voice. Tim is scared at this point, but you have to hide it. Your eyes should dart away, but not too obviously. I'd nod and do it his way, and sure enough, the director would approve it on the first take. The problem was, there were still dozens of kissing scenes in the script. After a while, Eric and I completely lost any sense of personal space. During breaks, he'd casually hand me water, his arm draped over my shoulder, his fingers idly stroking the back of my neck. If I was eating a snack, he'd lean over and pluck a piece of a cookie right from my hand, his lips brushing my fingertips. We were stuck together all day, our breaths mingling, our body heat shared. In the show, I was pretending to be in love with him. Outside the show, I was slowly actually falling for him. It was getting harder and harder to tell where the drama ended and reality began. Zoe seemed to think we should just get married already. Leo, are you guys sure you're not really dating? I'd stubbornly reply, I'm just getting into character. It's called method acting. Ever heard of it? Method acting my way into falling for him. Watching myself sink, fully aware of what was happening. Filming was wrapping up soon, and the production was moving at lightning speed. The director was thrilled and announced with a wave of his hand, take a day off. On a strange impulse, I called out to Eric. Zoe said, there are fireflies in the woods back there. I regretted it the second I said it. An A-lister's time is precious. He shouldn't have to waste his day off on me. But Eric smiled, his eyes curving into crescents. Okay, let's go together. He didn't say you should go, he said let's. That night, the woods were so quiet all you could hear was the chirping of insects. Fireflies rose from the grass like scattered stars. Eric stood among the points of light and turned back to look at me. A tiny glimmer of light caught on his eyelashes. In that second, I knew. I liked Eric. It wasn't Tim from the show liking Caleb. It was me, Leo, liking Eric. Soon, it was the day the trailer for Palm Ballad was released. I was a nervous wreck. I was terrified people wouldn't like my portrayal of Tim. It's over. It's over. I'm gonna get so much hate. I huddled on the sofa, frantically refreshing the comments on the trailer. Eric reposted the trailer with the caption, I hope everyone comes to love Leo. I stared at the screen, my chest feeling warm. Suddenly, I wasn't so scared anymore. To my surprise, the audience's reaction to the trailer was overwhelmingly positive. Leo is so seductive, that bullied look in his eyes. Hiss, so hot. My phantom limb is hard. I get Eric now. I want to see my honey cry even harder. My honey is so cute. How can you not be a bottom for this? My reputation seemed to have flipped. Zoe was holding her phone, laughing hysterically. Leo, they've started a poll to guess how many times Eric tops you in the actual show. Just then, the paparazzi released the footage they'd secretly filmed. It was the video of me and Eric rehearsing on the hotel terrace. In the clip, he had my wrist in his grip, our breaths mingling, his gaze searing hot. Then the railing broke, and he pulled me into his arms. Eric was holding my waist, and I was practically melting into his embrace. The internet went wild. That size difference, that sexual tension. Are you sure you two aren't really dating? Help. The way Eric looks at Leo could start a fire. They've definitely done it. I'd bet my life on it. I clicked on the edited clip and watched myself blushing, looking away, and stealing glances at him over and over again. I suddenly realized, had I liked him since way back then? And what about him? Those subtle touches, those gazes filled with hidden smiles. He must like me too, right? Filming was over. All that was left was the wrap party. After that, we'd go our separate ways, back to new projects with no more reason to be stuck together all day. Adults are used to goodbyes, but the thought of being separated from Eric made my chest ache. I clenched my fists and took a deep breath. Screw goodbyes. I was going to confess. I mustered all my courage and went to knock on the door of Eric's hotel room. I knocked several times. No answer. A cleaning lady saw me and kindly asked, "Leo, are you looking for Eric?" He just left for his company in the car. Left for his company? My heart sank. I ran downstairs and saw his black SUV speeding away from the hotel entrance. The windows were tinted black. He didn't even leave me a shadow. He just left, without even a goodbye. I stood there, stunned, a sudden emptiness in my chest. The sour feeling was unbearable. I went back to my room, about to send him a message, but then I saw the #1 trending topic on social media. Eric hit and run. It was followed by a dark red explosive tag. I clicked on the topic and a surveillance video popped up. On a dark intersection at night, a black Mercedes hit a pedestrian and sped off. The license plate was blurred, but I recognized the car model. It was Eric's private car. The comments section was a cesspool of hate. This is the character of an A-lister? Does he think human life is a joke? He acts all high and mighty, but behind the scenes, he's a criminal scumbag who flees the scene of an accident. This kind of tainted artist should be blacklisted. The incident was too severe, the evidence too damning. Brands quickly dropped their endorsement deals, and his PR team went completely silent. I stared at the video, my fingers trembling. No, the time was wrong. The timestamp in the top right corner read 8:16 p.m. last night. But at that time, Eric was with me catching fireflies. The fireflies were floating up from the forest floor, their green light dotting the trees. I was so engrossed that I didn't notice my shoelace had come undone. But Eric did. "Don't move." He knelt down and tied my shoe for me. Moonlight filtered through the leaves, landing on the back of his neck like an unreal dream. I secretly raised my phone. In the camera's view, he suddenly looked up, a speck of firefly light on his eyelashes. "Leo, taking a secret picture of me?" My hand shook and the video ended abruptly. It froze on the image of him smiling and reaching for the camera. How could he possibly have been in a hit and run at that time? I immediately posted the video on my social media. The caption was just 4 words. "Time will tell." There was no other explanation, but the entire internet decoded it instantly. Eric wasn't in the car that night. He was with me catching fireflies. Netizens were stunned. "Whoa, they're this close in private. Are we sure they're not dating? Is this a clarification or a relationship announcement? Leo is so brave. I love it." The trending topic immediately changed direction. Eric Leo fireflies. He's so in love. Public opinion flipped, and his fans were triumphant. "All you rumor mongers, come out and apologize. Am I the only one shipping this?" Leo immediately protected his man. What kind of a lister spends his time off with a colleague looking at bugs? Not long after, Eric released a statement. The PR copy was flawless. The person responsible was his driver, who had taken his car without permission and hit a pedestrian late at night, fleeing in a panic. As soon as Eric found out, he immediately contacted the victim to apologize and offer compensation. He would be suing the driver and holding him accountable. The entire statement was rational, calm, and direct. But the last paragraph took a sharp turn. "Thank you to Leo for providing the key evidence. I love the video. I've already saved it." Attached was a screenshot of our chat history. I slammed my hands over my face. The delayed onset embarrassment hit me. Now the whole world knew. I took a secret video of him, and he saved it. After handling the media storm, Eric rushed back to the production's hotel. He was dressed in a black trench coat, still carrying the chill of the outside air, his gaze heavy as he stared straight at me. "Why did you do that?" The truth was, Eric could have handled the hit and run situation even without me posting that video. I looked up, meeting his eyes, and my heart hammered against my ribs. I confessed, "I can't stand seeing people insult you, not even a little." Eric froze for a second, then suddenly smiled, the coldness in his eyes instantly melting away. He walked over, propped one hand on the sofa armrest next to me, and leaned in close. "Leo," his voice was low, tinged with a teasing tone. "Are you confessing to me?" My ears burned, but I didn't back down. "Yeah." "Is that a problem?" He stared at me for 2 seconds, then reached out and pinched my chin, his thumb brushing over my lips. No problem. It's perfect. Eric asked, so, am I your boyfriend now? I bit my lip and nodded. Yeah. Leo, he said my name, his voice low and intimate. What? My heart was beating ridiculously fast. He lowered his head, his nose almost brushing against mine. I like you. My brain exploded. Before I could react, his lips were on mine. The kiss was fierce, urgent, and hungry, like he had been holding back for a very long time. My legs went weak. My back was against the wall, my fingers unconsciously clutching his collar. He let out a low laugh, nipping my lip. Breathe. I panted, glaring at him. You're cheating. Let me cheat one more time, he said, and kissed me again. The only sounds in the room were our intense kisses and our increasingly desperate breaths. Later, I found out that Eric was one of the investors in Palm Ballad. You were after me from the start? Eric leaned back on the sofa and admitted it freely. It was premeditated. When did it start? 3 years ago, outside a supermarket. His eyes darkened slightly. I had just terminated my contract and was in a terrible mood. Then I turned around and saw this little drunkard on a kiddie ride, just rocking back and forth for the whole afternoon. You were rocking and yelling, "Daddy's daddy is called Grandpa." And you kept insisting that passers-by put coins in for you. I wanted to build a rocket and leave Earth immediately. Eric chuckled and ruffled my hair. I just thought, this guy is really interesting. And then what? And then? He leaned in, his breath tickling my ear, his fingers tracing a teasing path down to my stomach. And then I started thinking about how I could trick you into coming over and rocking for me every day. By the time Eric got off me, my body was limp and my voice was completely hoarse. He propped himself up on his arms and looked down at me. What time's your flight? For in the afternoon, I answered, panting. His eyes darkened, and he suddenly pressed down again, nibbling my ear. Then we still have some time. Again? I glared at him. He laughed quietly, his fingers sliding between mine, lacing them together. Last time. You said that last time. This time for real. Liar. In the end, I almost missed my flight. Eric drove me to the airport, a smile plastered on his face the entire way. What are you smiling about? I grumbled, collapsed in the passenger seat, my legs still weak. He reached over and ruffled my hair. Had your fill of rocking? A shiver went down my spine. His kiddie ride had some seriously impressive performance.